Welcome back to the podcast. I'm sitting here today with my friend Mark Corless. How are you, brother?
Yo, doing well.
Thanks for coming through, man, in these tough times.
Oh, yeah, cheers.
Staying
dude. Hey,
distant.
thanks for oh, there we go. Staying distant, just cheers.
Yeah, but we didn't touch it yet, so we're good, right?
Yeah, that's true.
If I understand COVID correctly.
Exactly. And
Which I don't.
And I also trust Heineken sanitary conditions, so.
Right? If I had a Corona right now, bro, they stopped production, actually, huh?
Wait, Heineken?
Corona. No.
Oh, Corona.
Heineken. Yeah, Heineken changed the slogan to, at least we're not Corona. You know what I mean? Just taking advantage of the times, huh?
See, I can't tell. I hear mixed things about whether the coronavirus is good or bad for Corona. Because people are like, any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
But this is crushing a business.
No, they stopped production. I saw that. But then...
Because they're just not making money?
You know what? I couldn't even answer that. You know those 6Buzz? Like you have Instagram 6Buzz?
No, what's that?
6Buzz. You don't know 6Buzz on Instagram?
No.
You know like World Star Hip Hop?
Oh,
that's
okay,
like Toronto's World Star is 6Buzz.
Oh, shit. Oh,
yeah,
shit.
and they post headlines and stuff, and I don't even know if it's true. That's where I get a lot of my info. I just saw it in passing, and I was like, I guess it's true.
Yeah, okay, well, fair enough then.
But I have no idea. And a couple of episodes ago, I was talking to my buddy G-Win. Like, when it first dropped, we were like, "Is this good or bad for Corona?" And he was saying that. He was saying like, no publicity is bad publicity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
except if it's fucking coronavirus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a virus that'll kill you. Corona. Whoa, I'm gonna have a Corona. No, I think this is the one scenario where it's not good publicity.
Well, I think it's like because a lot of people would. It's depending on how powerful irony is.
Yeah,
it's like drinking it ironically, and it's good to have like a Facebook post about it. I see a lot of rappers and a lot of like really hip people kind of like being like Corona, or there's
as a joke,
as like a joke,
yeah, as a joke, okay.
Or there's like different people who do like different comedy stuff. They'll always just like have a Corona in there, and I can't tell if it's like self-aware.
Andrew Schultz, he goes live on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's got cases of Corona behind him.
Exactly right.
This is just for Corona. These are comedians that you're
exactly right.
You're looking to, right? Like the comedians are still doing it.
Yeah.
They must be fine, right?
And I definitely know a few people that have bought in Corona for the straight purpose, just because it's funny.
Yeah. But besides that, I think they are really hurting at the beer store and sales and whatnot.
I gotta look that up, see if they because I'd be curious.
A while ago they declared massive losses, but that could be just due to general poor sales. You know what I mean?
Just because their beer sucks.
Yeah, it could be that, or the fact that all bars are pretty much ceased, right?
Yeah, well, that's true.
You could bring Corona home, but I'm assuming a lot of their sales were coming from businesses.
Yeah, no, for sure. And
just like everybody else.
Yeah, well, I mean, the economics of this whole thing is kind of up in the air right now.
Everyone's fucked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Big recession coming.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let me talking about economics like I didn't even take Econ 101. I don't know shit. I just keep hearing recession. I'm like, yeah, man, recession's coming, bro.
Yeah, I'm not even sure exactly what a recession is per se. Do you know?
That's like a huge economic the low level. Like if you think of economic as like a sine curve, like the high and the low,
right?
Thriving at the top and recession is the bottom.
Is like
from what I understand,
relative
minimal economic activity relative to the normal and peak times.
Okay,
again, this is pure speculation. We're going to continue to speculate exclusively. Nothing will be looked up. Exactly. Nothing is going to be good.
Speaking in the basement here, just fucking talking into it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even live in the core of Toronto.
Just up here, just like looking at people with binoculars. I think they're poor. Yeah.
I got my boy Mark Corless with me today. You're going to remember that name. Mark is one of the big filmmakers of the future. I'm going to have him here. We're going to look back at this episode. I see it coming, bro.
Yeah, you think so?
I'll say one good thing about you. You're the most passionate person when it comes to talking about movies, filmmaking, fucking going to your place. You're showing me different film. This is 16 and this is 35 and this is 70 and look at this. I'm like, God damn, this guy's... You're more into film than I'm into comedy.
Yeah, really? Is that
I think so.
That's a major comment.
I'm obsessed with comedy, but you are obsessed.
Well, I think it's because...
Like, Jesus, tune it down, bro.
You're fucking annoying as shit.
I don't like you.
I'm like, first of all, this aspect ratio is incorrect for proper projection. Well, I think it's just because...
if you can't see him right now, he has a super patronizing face.
Exactly.
He's been wearing it since the first second we've been on.
That's exactly right. I have a filtered cigarette. Like one of those long filtered
cigarettes. Like the 101 Dalmatians, that old bitch.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Like the affluent...
Just falling around.
I don't let a cigarette touch my lips.
Yeah, exactly.
I make money.
Yeah, you have to have gloves on. And
I trade futures.
Yeah. No, I think it's mostly because like I've made films with you and I've made films with people, and you can dive into so much technical information on a film. Like there's a huge part of filmmaking that's technical. Like you could even define filmmaking as the technical part, because everything else that a film is kind of like borrowed from other art forms. Like the literary tradition or the performance tradition is like theater and novel, basically. So those two things you can't really talk about. You can only really feel. I guess you can talk about them to a degree, but it's such intuitiveness.
I'd never even thought about the difference between filming on a digital medium, like on an SD card, versus filming on a actual film, chemical film.
Oh yeah.
Until you came into fucking the picture with like Conrad Ose, who's been on the podcast a bunch of times, introduced me to you. But yeah, and now that I'm watching, the other day I watched Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. In the beginning, they're like recorded on Extraordinary 70 or something like that. I forget what they said. What do they call
Magnificent 70.
Yeah, something like that. And I was like, oh, that's probably 70 millimeter. Because you explained that to me.
Hell yeah.
And then I was trying to watch, and the way you explain is that film versus digital film, the light, you can tell the way that light bends around objects and the hits. How do you describe it? Yeah. I'm just trying to rephrase what you said with you sitting right next to me, but 2 meters away for listeners. He is 2 meters away.
2 meters away, 6 feet. Stay the fuck over there.
Per law.
Yeah. There's ultimately that's just my opinion. Like ultimately it all comes down to like an opinion. But I feel like there is a major difference between the look of film and the look of digital. And what I was trying to explain to you was just the way it captures light. It just feels more authentic. It's more organic by definition, and it's just like I often think about that because I feel a bit like a drug dealer for film. Like whenever I get like a friend of mine who's like, I'm interested in photography, I'm like, you better be shooting film. And they're like, I want to make a film. I'm like, well, let's shoot film. I'm like trying to like pawn people off.
But it's huge cost to it. I didn't even realize this again until talking to you guys. Like filming a full movie on 7 millimeter film. How much is the physical price of the film for that feature? Just buying the film.
It's not, see, you're also talking about like Hollywood films, which are kind of like a different portion to like the rest of the world's film. I guess Bollywood is an exception there as well. And
Bollywood uses different film than Hollywood?
No, I just mean the amount of money they make.
Oh, got it.
So like Bollywood makes a ton of money. Hollywood makes a ton of money. England and China, their film industries also make a lot of money, but not really compared to Hollywood and Bollywood. Like those are like the fucking like machines of fucking cash and entertainment and stuff. But sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, like the raw cost. How much 70 millimeter film costs to film? Let's say an hour, 40 minutes, 100-minute movie. They get how much footage? Like 10 hours, 100 hours, whatever that is, right? For editing, like I'm not talking about the end product, the actual all the film they record on. That cost of just that for the film. You told me it was like over $100,000.
Well, I was about to say, in my mind, if you're shooting like a big budget feature film back in the day, which like everything was shot on film, it wouldn't be uncommon for a film to spend like $80,000, $100,000 on film a day.
On just a day.
A day.
Okay, there you go, and they're shooting months, right?
Yeah. So think about so if you're shooting for like maybe, I don't know, like a big Hollywood fucking film, it's hard to tell because I only know like the real like prices of today's films, which are like, $300 million for like The Irishman, which was shot a lot on 35.
So The Irishman was $300 million budget?
Something like that, yeah, 250, 300, like massive budget.
And the cost of the film, was?
Oh, I have no idea because that depends on how many takes they did, and I know they also mixed it with like digital and film because of all that de-aging technology was like.
That had to be on digital.
That had to be on digital.
Yeah, and that just in some scenes that just looked not right. That de-aging was so aggressive when they made him look real young.
Sure.
If you use de-aging and like chop off 15, 20 years, it's good. When they're chopping off, like they're bringing him as like a late 20s, 30s guy, it's like, that's at the limits of that software. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because what is it? Like De Niro and Pacino, they're in their
70s. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say it's just like their bodies, because I could have bought it if they could like move like they're in their 40s.
Their shoulders, the way their shoulder and
their back.
Yeah, like that one scene in The Irishman where that guy fucks with his daughter and he breaks through the glass and like starts stomping on his legs. He looked like a fucking old man.
Right. And you notice in that scene they kept it wide. They cut it. They were like,
just keep it wide. Just get it in one shot. It was that sugar glass that shatters immediately. And you could tell like he had his fucking doctors right off frame waiting.
Yeah, that's
barely
true.
Stomping. He looked like He looked like a fucking an old man in an old folks home playing pretend.
Yeah, that's hilarious. The paramedics on the side there.
But
did he hurt himself?
Yeah, right. Is his knee good? All right, we're doing another take. But you're saying that they use a combination of digital and film.
They use a combination of digital and film. Yeah. From what I've interneted with my armchair research.
Yeah.
But so for them, I feel like, well, I'll say this: 70 millimeter. To get back to your 70 millimeter question, I think for a roll of, I think it's 1,000 feet, which is probably somewhere in the ballpark of like 7 to 10 minutes worth of footage. It's about close to about $1,100 just for the roll itself. That's not development and that's not printing. That's just the raw film. Let alone the camera
10 minutes,
to put it in. Let alone everything else.
So you use. Well, that's 10 minutes. You probably use thousands of those or hundreds of those.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, because they're getting...
People fucking blast.
Do you know what it is, the ratio? Like if a movie is 2 hours long, how much raw footage they have time-wise?
I'm sure...
Is there a ratio? Like is it 10 to 1?
Yeah, well, that your shooting ratio is kind of like how much, what your shot is versus how many times you're shooting it. But so many filmmakers work in so many different ways. And like all the people that I really enjoy and study are just like weirdos who approach film in like, some people I know, like Kubrick, for example, will do like, 50, 60 takes.
And he did The Shining, right?
He did The Shining, yeah, in like 2001, Full Metal Jacket. He's like one of my heroes.
He's a big dude.
Oh, yeah, he's the
best.
best.
You've never heard of Kubrick?
You never heard of Stanley Kubrick? Google. Yeah, he's the best. He's just the best. If anybody's interested in filmmaking, I really suggest just looking at all his films. Because every way you approach Stanley Kubrick from a cinematic perspective, whether it be the writing, the sound, the editing, the acting, the cinematography, the production design, any aspect of filmmaking, Kubrick has so much knowledge about it. And so much originality and like perspective and thought.
Does he interview a lot? Like,
No, actually, there's only like maybe 3 interviews you can find of him. He hated publicity, and he hated like kind of telling you what it means. He wanted you to just experience it and pull what you want.
So you just got to study the movies exclusively.
You got to watch the movies and enjoy them. Also, there's plenty written about him, and there's plenty of people talk about the experiences of working with him. But there's not a lot from him himself. There's a great Playboy written. There's a great Playboy interview with him. I think from like the 70s or the 60s. There's a really great audio interview with him, which is about an hour long, which is incredibly insightful on YouTube, which is with him in like 1966, like right before he made 2001.
Okay.
And he talks about like the idea of being correct and like how when you're correct, people seem to know it.
Correct in what sense? And as far as the shot is concerned?
Well, that's what I mean. Exactly. There's lots of terminology in filmmaking that get tossed around like, does it work? This works. This doesn't work. And it's an abstract thought, meaning like...
Like, are we getting our point across with this scene, with the shot? Is that defined work?
Yeah, exactly. Then you have to ask, well, what do you mean point?
Oh,
shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, what do you mean the point of it?
That's going all the way to the bottom. That's going deep in, bro.
Exactly. So, but like this terminology gets thrown around a lot in film, but it is ultimately just an opinion. But for some reason, there's these like standardized ideas that are kind of always float around. So like when you're talking about shooting ratios, I'm sure somebody knows about like what's the standard shooting ratio or the ideal shooting ratio. But when I'm studying like a Romanian filmmaker from the 90s, that guy was like, okay, I got 400 feet and
gotta get
it's like I gotta get this close up and this medium, and it's like zooming in and out, like try to like get like desperately just trying to make a film any way they can
with the lowest budget
with like a regimed government over him. He's like I get killed for talking about this.
The leader is great. He has to include that in every scene.
Yeah. There's also a great film called 4 Months, 3 Weeks, 2 Days, which is a Romanian film from the 2000s.
Ironically, has nothing to do with time.
It has nothing to do with time. No, it doesn't. It's about a woman who gets an abortion in the 90s illegally in Romania. I'm just gonna start spitting out films.
And that's how long it took her to fucking
that's
do the paperwork.
That's how far along she was with the baby.
4 months,
3 weeks, 2 days.
That's just murder at that point.
Well, that's exactly right.
The term's not abortion.
Oh yeah, it's
a heartbeat, fam.
Yeah. Well,
actually, I have no idea about biology. I don't even know if there is.
Yeah, it's well, that's the whole film is that she like tries to get an illegal abortion and she tells the guy like, oh, I'm only 2 months along, and then she gets there and the guy's like, you're more along. How along are you? And she's like, I'm 3 months, and he's like, this is not 3 months. Like you're much more. She's like, yeah, 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days.
Ma'am, you're holding the child.
Yeah, exactly. Man,
that child's born.
I'm not going to kill your kid.
Please.
Yeah. But it's an incredibly dramatic movie and a great, great movie. Like I said, I'm just going to spit out films and hopefully if people listen, they'll watch them because I just want people to watch good movies.
You know what I watched last night? The Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Wes Anderson? I feel like, before you say anything, Wes Anderson, to me, and I enjoy his movies, but I feel like they're almost like, they're like a picnic in a way. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a very like, you could tell the target audience is mostly like white. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just always colorful and always like everybody's clothing is like always like tailored to the perfection. Everyone's like in their own thing. There's a lot of like focus on vibrant color and like rule of thirds is adhered to pretty hard. Or if he centers, like it's like rule of thirds is like when you, how do you describe? I mean, I know what it is, but for the listeners.
Well, the rule of thirds?
Yeah.
I guess if you like break up a frame into like thirds vertically and horizontally, and then you kind of compose with that. Like
like if you see a picture, you never see someone in the middle. You see them in the right quadrant or the left quadrant or something, and that's like the rule of thirds. He kind of like sticks to that, or he puts them right in the middle.
Yeah, 1 point perspective.
But I feel like Wes Anderson's, and you know, Royal Tenenbaums. I was looking at the credits at the end. Oh, him and Owen Wilson wrote it.
Yeah, well, Owen Wilson wrote his first film too with Wes Anderson, I think. Him and Luke Wilson. Bottle Rocket?
I've never seen it.
It's a first film, and you wouldn't recognize it because it's not very Wes Anderson-y. Like It's kind of shot in like kind of like a French New Wave kind of way, like handheld and like kind of like about criminals.
Yeah, okay.
Like it's more indie film for sure.
So he's a big. Did he write Wedding Crashers? Who wrote Wedding Crashers?
Owen Wilson?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant Wes Anderson.
No.
I don't know.
I didn't know he was writing stuff.
I don't know. No, I think Owen Wilson has definitely. I mean, obviously, man, the guy like attempted suicide like years ago.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did. I think.
Like after Wedding Crashers? Was this pre or post Wedding Crashers?
I believe it was after Wedding Crashers.
Really?
Like maybe 12 years ago or something. I want to say 08, 09 something. Yeah, he's a pretty dark guy.
Oh shit.
Seemingly.
Yeah, right. Maybe it was a publicity stunt.
And I think I remember reading something about him. He considers himself a writer first. Like he enjoys the act of writing. And if you look him up, he does have quite a lot of like surprising writing credits.
But yeah, I was shocked. I didn't even know he wrote shit. At the bottom, I was like, Owen Wilson and Wes Anderson wrote this. Wow, I had no idea. But what are your thoughts on Wes Anderson?
What are my thoughts on Wes Anderson? I mean, I like Wes Anderson. I have a ton of respect for him, but I do think he's overrated. I'll say that. That's right. I'm like about to shoot like a wrestling promo. That's right, Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
You're fucking done.
You've been called out, Wes Anderson.
I've seen the production design. What about the script?
Lame. This Sunday, Mark Corless, Wes Anderson.
Intellectual battle.
Yeah, right? It's filmmakers gone fucked.
You were like walking, I'm a millionaire and extremely successful. And
yeah. Streamed online due to COVID precautions.
Exactly. But have you heard of Viktor Frankl?
Yeah, his stories. Yeah, exactly. It's shot. You're always so in the shot.
In the shot.
But at the end of the movie, like Grand Budapest, I love that movie.
See,
really love that movie. Grand Budapest Hotel.
I always walk out of Wes Anderson films a little disappointed, I'll say this. Like, actually, except for Royal Tenenbaums, I think is a bit of an exception. That's like a really great movie. But like, whenever I've seen, was it like Fantastic Mr. Fox or Moonrise Kingdom or Grand Budapest Hotel, all those films, like, you start off the first hour and a half is really enticing and really intriguing because it's so visually powerful.
Yeah.
And it's so quirky. But then, like, you're kind of looking for something human to be said. And I find he always often falls short on, like, his humanity. Like, he just kind of wraps things up with kind of like a coy, cliche kind of way.
It's funny you say that because I realized that in my comedy, this is pre-COVID days, back when we were going to the stage, back when we were doing stand-up, back when people were gathering, you know, if you can remember, right?
Mm-hmm. Back when being in a group of 5 was legal.
Yeah, exactly. I remember a couple months ago, I bombed so hard at some show that really made me revisit all, like, my whole approach to what I was doing. And I realized that I got so in the rat race of trying to cut all the fat out of my material and just trying to, every sentence, every word I'm saying, it has to be a reason for it. I was cutting all of the humanity almost out of the material. Right. And I realized I was almost like this joke saying robot for a lot of the bits I was doing. Some were like very like sincere and like they resonated, so they worked, right? But a lot of them, they were just like, I was like, I'll take out all the fat and then it'll be the perfect bit, because that's what good comics do. They take out all the fat and make it the most economy of words, and then it'll be hilarious. But then I realized that I wasn't seeming like a person.
Right.
People didn't come across who I really was. So I'd go back and pepper in some words in there. I'd pepper in some stuff, like some random thing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like before I would just say a line, but now I'd be like, but you know, I don't trust it. Adding that.
Yeah, like deviating a little bit and kind of showing yourself.
Personally, I don't trust it. That's not funny. Or here's what I think about it. And a lot of people don't think this is legit. Like saying something like that is not funny by itself, but it's like, yo, this is how I feel about it. This is my personal perspective. Adding those things help those materials come alive so much more. So in that sense, I feel like Wes Anderson is still doing a little bit of that. He took the humanity fully out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he just has to pepper it back in to reach that nice middle point.
Yeah, a little bit of... I'm reminded of that quote that says, like, you like people for their qualities, but you love them for their faults. Like, if you really want people to really, like, have this, like, deep connection, you need to remind them that you're faulted, which reminds them in turn of their own faults.
Yeah.
Which is like a safe... Which is like a
to build a rapport.
connection.
Yeah. And I was doing a lot of that, too. I was doing a lot of make fun of.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny observations? I was never really... The magnifying glass was on others' faults and other fuck-ups observations I made up, not really on my own shortcomings, right?
Well, and it's similar, like with film, and this is pretty common in my experience anyway. Like,
excuse me,
because like I said before, there's so many technical aspects of film, and you can get caught up in those, and you can kind of try and find some kind of guarantee where everything is
like we'll light it perfect, and we'll have him standing there, and it'll be perfect.
But those things you can't, I don't know what it is. You can't like learn. The things that you just have to feel, like, say, a good story or, like, a good performance, like a good actor to me. Like, to me, one of my very favorite things in the world is just actors and acting. It's such an important thing and such, like, an honest, truly human thing. And it's unpredictable. Some of the greatest performances in any film have been from people that directors have found on the street. And they just give them the right vibe. And
like what? What, for example?
Well, I mean, one of the great films... Do you ever see this film called Distant? Now, it's a Turkish film from the 1990s.
So nobody's seen it.
Please continue. Roger Ebert reviewed it, and he actually hated it.
It's a Turkish film from 30 years ago. Continue.
Anyways, I'll try and think of like something a little more relevant. I'm trying to think of like some big Hollywood actors that were like street cast. Put on the spot, I can't really think of anything. I can only think of
like Keanu Reeves could have been.
Foreign things. If you watch any like... Mostly like foreign films or mostly like world films. Often, you know, if you're in a poor country like Iran, like a lot of the great Iranian filmmakers just found like kids in their neighborhood and shit. There's this really great film actually called The Apple by this girl Samir Makhmalbaf, and what she did is she took the real life story of this family where this father was keeping his children prisoner in his basement. Okay. And what she did is she went to these people and she wrote a film around the real life event and got them to reenact it.
Oh, wow.
Fictionally. And it worked as a catharsis for them to forgive each other.
Who played the father? I'm assuming he was in prison.
No.
So this wasn't a criminal... What country was this?
This was Iran.
Oh, okay.
This is Iran.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. This wasn't in America.
90s Iran. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Shit.
This was in Iran. And
90s Iran is like 30s US, right?
There was...
If I understand. If I understand the correction correctly.
Yeah, 90s Iran is like 30s.
Yeah.
It's funny, yeah. Speaking cinematically, I think you could have a good point there, as a matter of fact. But that to me is super fascinating, that like you can have this really strong, this really like technically low film that has no guarantees technically at all. Like anybody who watches this film, like it's shot on like 16 millimeter by this woman who was like 19, this girl Samira, and she like just like made it without any technical skill. But the depths of the performances and the depths of the ideas were so strong that the film is interesting. The film is actually very captivating and has such a strong force to it.
Even though like it failed on all those fronts,
all those
that everybody would focus on first.
100%.
Like the Wes Anderson, all those check boxes.
It's the opposite of Wes Anderson.
Total Wes, yeah.
But because another thing about Wes Anderson is he has an unprecedented, I will say this,
unprecedented. Let it be heard here on the Immigrant section.
Let it be heard here. An unprecedented access to actors. His casting is insane. He works like his cast are like 30 people, and you're like, how much? Like all these people are like all A-listers,
yeah.
And the only reason I think is because they want to work with him because he's great filmmaker and people really respect him and all that kind of stuff. But for some reason, they don't shine as much as say like a film like The Apple, where the actors are just like nobodies who are kind of mentally off. But she accepts them for who they are and leans into that. Doesn't lean into like, oh, I need this shot perfect and I need blah 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 blah. She's kind of like pulling from something and it's give and pull versus kind of like an anxiety to structure, which I feel is more Wes Anderson.
I feel like if you could find people who are not shy in front of the camera, if they're not shy in front of the camera, that one criteria,
right,
and they have no previous acting training or anything, it's almost this like unmolded situation where you could actually, in my mind, produce something really good, right? Because shyness in front of the camera will kill it, right?
Not necessarily.
You don't think so?
I mean, it can, for sure. It absolutely can.
Unless it's a fucking documentary on shyness.
Well,
right?
and on this,
he can't even talk to us right now. That's how shy he is. He'll be speaking through his brother.
He's like, this man is a mute. Yeah. He's like, but well, that's why I brought up the movie like The Apple, because it is like this. These people who are incredibly shy. I mean, he was like this obsessive man who kept his daughters in his basement, and his daughters never saw the light of day. But somehow this girl Samira like either communicated with them properly or distracted them enough. Or there's I'm reminded of the story of this. Do you know that famous National Geographic photo of like the young woman in Iran who's like looking? It's like this like young woman with like a
Is
red
it like
cloth.
Destruction around her? Or?
No, it's just like a close up of her face. She has like these really piercing eyes. It's an incredibly
I think I have
famous
seen
photo.
That. Yeah.
And
okay.
the photographer talks about how he got to this environment and he saw this girl and he was like, oh, I really want a photo of her. But she was like, no. She was really, really, really extremely shy. So what he did is he took photos of everyone around her and showed how fun it was, and they were smiling and having fun. To which she then eventually was like, oh, I want to be a part of that fun. So you're kind of psychologically leaning
you put
into
your
them.
foot in the door slowly.
Yeah. But you're also accepting them for who they are and then making the film around them. You're not kind of having a preconceived notion of what filmmaking is and trying to fit them into that. You're just letting the art form open up around somebody.
That's some high level shit right there.
But that's a beautiful
That's
thing.
some high level shit right there.
Well,
that's what I'm talking about. That's why I brought you on this fucking podcast.
That's what I'm saying, right?
That's my boy. Keep saying some shit like that. Yeah, these weeds gonna be on, nigga.
Yeah. But that to me is just like a different approach. You know, they're all like cinematic tools. Like, you know, a lot of people are into like that handheld style or that kind of like realistic style today. To
Like
which
how The Office is shot, all handheld,
The Office,
camera
absolutely.
shake.
Most dramatic films today, especially in the festival route right now, are definitely kind of have that natural lighting style. There's a cinematographer called Harris Savades who basically gave the world this very naturalistic style of cinematography to look like there's no lighting.
Okay.
Like if you look at films in the 60s, it looks like a play. Like there's shadows going everywhere and it looks like it's lit, right?
Yeah, because they're using just fucking bulbs.
Right. And the 70s kind of, yeah. Well, it's also because the film was so insensitive, meaning like you had to blast it with light, or else it wouldn't
otherwise
register.
it's just so dark. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you take out your phone and it's like no light and it's struggling.
Like an iPhone 3G at night shot. This is black.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So like, oh shit, I forget where the fuck I was going with that.
You were just saying how the lighting changed from in the 70s.
Yeah, you're right. In the 70s, was kind of split the differences. You had that basically American filmmakers kind of took that European style of like on the street shooting and like kind of like documentary.
We'll use whatever ambient light there is.
Yeah, exactly. Mixed in with that classic Hollywood style lighting, and then you have this like modern lighting. But it's all just tool. Oh yeah, what I was going to say was it's all just tools to convey a feeling. Like if you have the feeling first, you have like the goal first, and you kind of just use the art form as a avenue towards the feeling. But you have to know what that feeling is. Like what a lot of people term as like vision. Like you have to have like an idea of what you want to achieve.
And that's pretty much what a director is hired for, right?
100%.
That the director is the captain of the ship, the person with the consistent vision,
Right.
who oversees all the
the
decisions with respect to that compass. The decision is like the compass, and your vision is north.
Well,
and
yeah.
it just, does it align with north? Like all the decisions, the lighting, everything, the actors, does it align with?
You're directing.
Yeah,
you're directing people. Like a cinematographer might walk up to you and say, okay, what's the feeling we're trying to achieve here? And you say, well, I'm trying to feel romantic. And he goes, so does that mean like kind of like, you know, he'll start to like approach things technically. Does that mean like, you know, this kind of filter, or does that mean this kind of lighting, or does that mean this kind of lens, or all these technical aspects to which
that's what
you just got to be intuitive. You got to follow your heart as a director, as an artist.
And then take a shot and see if it works.
Yeah,
just watch it back.
But maintain that goal, maintain that clarity. And I remember, I forget what film it was. It Chris Nolan or David O. Russell? Somebody was talking about how their biggest fear of being a filmmaker is falling out of love with the film they're making. Because it's like, once you make a film,
because it's like 3-4 months, 5 months.
Dude, when you're making a film as a director, it's like 2 years of your life.
Oh,
because you
you're
got
in the
to
edit.
find the script, you
Yeah.
got to convince people to give you money, you got to deal with actors and technicians, and you got to edit it, then you got to put it out, then you got to publicize it.
Oh yeah, and you got to stay in love with it that whole fucking time.
And your job, like you're saying, is to just convey that enthusiasm. Is to go, no, this is important. This actually matters to the producer. You got to go to the actor. This actually matters. The cinematographer. This is important. Like you got to be like a loved one. You got to be like, no, this person matters to me. This is something I'm trying to do. I'm not frivolous with
Yeah,
this.
there has to be passion behind it.
100%
It's not going to
there
get
does.
greenlit. What I want to know is,
Yo.
to me, the purpose of a producer has always been so vague in my mind. I don't really understand what they do. You always see producers, oh, he produced this, he produced that. If I wrote this incredible script and I'm like, I want Christopher Nolan to make this movie. You know, just speaking hypothetically.
Totally, man.
How would you get that script? What's the process? How does that pipeline work from an amazing script being written to it being in theaters? How does one get that? And I'm not even writing scripts. You know what I mean? I want to know, like, is there an online thing where directors or people go on and bid for? How does it work?
Well, I mean, the short answer is I don't know, because Canada's such a different system, such a different film system than the States.
Okay,
but I can speculate. But there doesn't seem...
Let's say this instead. Yeah. Christopher Nolan wrote a great script.
Right.
He has a great script, and that's even tough because he has such a trail of blockbusters that it's not going to be difficult for him to get anything greenlit.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is, what the fuck is the purpose of the producer? Is the producer the person that goes and finances, finds the banking, finds the financing, speaks to this? What does the producer do? Say, yo, we should put more black people in this. Like, what's the producer's job? Because the director goes, I want him to play that. The casting director goes, I suggest you do. What do the producers do?
Well, it's in the name. They actually produce the film. So their big focus as far as like their job would be to make sure everything's aligned properly, because like you're saying before, directors are so, or you know, I mean, again, there's
like a visionary with a hat and with circle glasses on set.
There's no straight path. And
you need the corporate. I'm assuming the producers are the corporate people that have a timeline that say we got to finish this. Like they're the project manager kind of, or what? Like,
well, I mean, they can also have vision too. I've actually been thinking a lot.
It's not uncommon for a producer to have vision.
Well, think about someone like, okay, I'm going to bring him up. The old like as far as producing, if you approach someone like Harvey Weinstein, his impact on film can't be understated. This is controversial.
He produced. I just watched The Hateful Eight 2 days ago, and it's like produced by Harvey Weinstein. I'm like, oh.
But not only that, he was the guy who was
great movie though. Fuck.
Like, there's so many directors floating around, and a producer basically is somebody who is, I guess, you know, for lack of a better term, a businessman, somebody who has money, but he also wants to elevate culture. He wants people to actually enjoy good films. You know, this is kind of my understanding anyway. And so he'll say, oh no, I want to make films that are like genre crime films, but are also independent. So he gave birth, Harvey Weinstein like single-handedly gave birth like Tarantino, Paul Thomas Anderson, Wes Anderson, David O. Russell, Spike Jonze, like that whole 90s crew, what's called the VCR generation.
Why? Because they produced all the big sales?
Well, he was
just all the top movies of the 90s? Or what do you mean VCR sales?
Well, there's a thing called the VCR generation of filmmakers. So it's just basically all the guys from like that came out of the 90s. Coen brothers might be in there as well. Okay. People who like peaked in the 90s, invented that new Hollywood. Because if you look at the trajectory of Hollywood, you have like basically the 20s, which is like where it kind of all started. You have the 50s where it kind of peaked. 60s, it kind of started to shift. Then you have the 70s where it peaked again with like Coppola and Scorsese and all those guys. 80s, it became just blockbuster big action films. 90s, it had
that was like Mission Impossible, Die Hard.
Totally. Yeah. And then you had the 90s, which is a lot of like what's called the VCR generation, which is what a lot of people would still consider is still going on
Pulp
right now.
Pulp
Fiction, Boogie Nights, Fargo, Being John Malkovich. Like these kind of off-kilter films that were all produced by what's called an auteur, which I don't like that term auteur very much.
What does that mean?
It's like I think it's a French word for author. So it's like somebody who's like...
I don't like it at all.
Like a visionary filmmaker, like somebody who's not just a director for hire, but somebody who's...
a philosopher also.
Yeah.
Some bullshit, yeah. They have a hat with a feather on it.
I feel like if you're trying to make a film or you're trying to make an art piece that's emotional and personal to you, you have to keep deep into your heart the idea that you're an auteur, but never say it. Never go up there and be like, I'm an auteur.
Yeah, right.
But in your heart, be like, okay, no, I really want to do this.
Chastised by everyone around you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to keep... It's a personal thing. It's like religious in a way. It's like whatever it means to you is what it means, and just carry that with you and keep going forward. But so someone like Harvey Weinstein, get back to your producer question, he would cultivate artists. He'd say, oh, and all these artists fit these categories and feel good like this. And this is the kind of thing I want to introduce to culture. It's not unlike Kanye West, who's like, I want this designer because they bring this vibe, or I want these models because they have this vibe, and I want to cultivate a certain piece of culture. You know what I mean? It's like, I was actually this last week up on my studies, and I was reading about the Medici family.
I've never heard of them.
The Medici family are like a 1300s Italian family who basically funded the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, those like beneficiaries.
Those beneficiaries.
Yeah.
But they had a vision. They said, oh no, we want certain artists to take like primordial ideas of like sex and violence and landscape and direct it towards like beauty, truth, and wisdom. And whatever that means for us.
You know how rich you gotta be to just be like,
oh, dude, these guys were rich as shit.
War needs to be on walls.
Yeah, shit.
You know, we need to put fucking on canvases and shit. Let's find some young bucks.
Yeah, Botticelli, this great. He did like the Birth of Venus. You know that Botticelli painting?
Yeah, I've seen
the Birth of Venus. Yeah. And his whole thing was like he was told by the Medici family to be like, no, we want you to convey like sexuality to beauty to love. Like, that's your goal. You have to take these primordial elements, but don't direct them towards, say, like, I don't know what else you direct them towards at that time. Now I feel like they're directed towards, like, advertisement. You know what I mean? It's like, you want to sell a car? Put a hot girl next to it.
Yeah,
you want to sell a car? Put it in a goddamn landscape. But the Renaissance believed that the beauty of a woman was valuable in and of itself, not needing to be directed, but just directed to itself, which might be beauty. So sex to beauty, or like the landscapes or something like that are sublime enough by themselves that they're representing like a truth. So
actually,
similar to that's what a producer I think would do ultimately in the best case scenario is you want to elevate the culture of film. He goes, I'm going to be very selective and intuitive about what directors I want to make what scripts.
So does the producer find the director?
Absolutely.
Does it start with the producer?
There's no real straight path. You could say it does. Yeah, I think the producer is the guy who chooses basically what films get made. But oftentimes it's like some producers just work with some directors and they're like, okay, whatever you want to make, I'll try and help you.
So it seems like the front door for scripts may be producers. You know?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah.
Like be like, sure. Oh, this is a perfect for Christopher Nolan, or this is a perfect
100%
premise for Wes Anderson.
Not unlike an actor, right? It's like, oh, this would be great if, you know.
And then Wes Anderson goes, Christopher Nolan goes, I'm gonna have Christian Bale's gonna play this.
Right.
He's gonna be my lead. Or who's that other guy that was in fucking Mad Max?
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yo, this is like I don't want.
So it's similar. It's like any art form, man. It's you know what I mean. It's just kind of you're just building colors and you're trying to tap into something relevant, which is kind of like psychological. It's kind of like what are your feelings and what do you think, and you know it's got to have that vision. So
filmmaking is a crazy thing, man.
It is a crazy thing.
I used to really think it was like. We have the script, we have the actors, and then like the director's just on there to just be like, this is not like with the script in their hand kind of thing. Seems like it's so much more the feeling that they want to convey. You know, it's not even like executing the script. It's like let's create this vision. The script, we can do rewrites on the script. Totally. You know what I mean? Like the script is not solid. The script's not in stone. This vision's in stone almost.
But at the same time, I know I've definitely read of some directors who are like so militant about sticking to the script.
From what I've seen being on set, you know, the minimal that I've been on set or what I've worked on, it seems like it's usually you shoot the script first and then they improvise. Or this is like the comedy mindset or like a comedy movie. You shoot the written page and then you deviate. And then they often take like, I know like Deadpool and a lot of these, they'll take so many shots. They'll take a lot of shots from the improvised scenes.
Yeah, sure.
You know, because if you get a good actor, they drive what you know. You're saying, does it work? Does it not work? The actor's in tune with that the most.
Well, that's exactly it, man. Like often, whenever I've shot a film, it's like you know what I mean. There's so much like you're just like fucking like exhausted, blah blah blah, and like you're just kind of in the thick of a film per se. And actors, man, they remind you why you're doing it. Actors are like, oh yeah, everybody else is here is trying to achieve something technical, where I'm trying to achieve something, for lack, I would say spiritual. Like I'm trying to convey an emotion to you. And what does that mean? What do you mean an emotion? What does it mean to be angry? Is it angry like subtly? Is it angry like overtly? Is it angry kind of in the middle? What does it mean? What are these things? I'm going to be sad. Okay, well, what do you mean by sad? And the actor's making the choice. This is what I mean by sad.
And then the director reels it in. They see, so what the actor makes the choice and then the director reels it into the vision. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I like what you did. 20% less. It's
true
because I've been on background in a lot of sets, way more sets than I've been at all involved as like primary talent. Way more,
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of the time. Oh, you know what? I also know directors always start with a plus, because it's like, and I don't know if you told me this or I don't know but in film school, like filmmakers are taught to treat actors like babies. I don't know who told me that, but like that is taught. Like you treat the talent like they're just infants, pretty much. Like
you really need to take care of them because they're doing by far the hardest job. I think an actor on set's doing the hardest thing. So probably the hardest job in the world. To me, it's like the most important job in the world as an actor.
What? Legit?
No,
what about Heart Doctor?
Well, I mean, why did the doctor want to become a doctor? You probably saw an actor. You probably saw a vision of something, an art piece representing it, a photo, a film. Somebody might have performed to him how great being a doctor is. He created a vision, not unlike an actor.
Oh, that's another high level thing right there. Yo, that's fucking high level.
Yo, there's a great psychologist. This guy Jean Piaget. This will be a YouTube clip for you. This guy Jean Piaget.
Oh, you just ruined
it. I'll start over.
Yeah. We'll cut from now. All right, go.
Yeah, there's this great psychologist named Jean Piaget, and he's a child psychologist, and he studied how.
As in, like he himself is 11.
He himself is a child and a psychologist. Yeah, he's 11 years old. No, he's like he studied children, and basically he questioned.
It's the only way you can do it without society questioning it, you know?
Exactly.
He's a child. He studied children for psychology, though.
For psychology.
He's only interested in he's only sexually attracted to their brains.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Yeah. But this is the 50s, so, molestation was cool.
Yeah,
you could tap kids on the head back in the day.
Catholicism. It's hot. It's all cool.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all cool.
No one's talking, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's whenever you said like a child psychologist, I just pictured this like baby with like big glasses, like a coat, like,
at a stethoscope for some reason. Like what?
Like his shoes are too big.
Yeah, right.
He's just like, oh, you are.
Well, if we remember what Freud said, either play complex,
Okay, all right. So, anyways, I don't know where to go. I'll let you get right back on track.
I just love that right there. But what I would say, like acting as being one of the most important jobs in the world, is Piaget. He studied how children's psychology develop. Like, how does a 5-year-old go from being like a 5-year-old intellect to like an 8-year-old intellect? How does the intellectual people? How do people grow intellectually?
Gotcha.
Right, that was the question. He made the argument that at a certain point in human history, a modern 5-year-old's intellect was the highest human intellect. So at some point, like a modern 5-year-old's knowledge was the highest a human's knowledge was.
Oh,
like,
legit.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you go way back.
Exactly, right, yeah. And these biologists.
Like cave days.
Yeah, these like psychologists, biologists, scientists, people. They were
ologists. A group of ologists.
Just ologists, whatever, OL.
Criminologists.
Yeah, they were, they like study like, tens of thousands of years of trying to see how the brain developed. But his argument, or what he noticed, was that how kids grow and how kids learn is they imitate virtuous action. So they see their parents and they imitate what their parents are. And they look at people's personalities and things they enjoy, and they pick and choose what is good and bad. And they pretend to be that. So kids will pretend to play doctor a lot. They'll pretend to be a lion. They'll pretend to be these different things. And then that eventually grows how they achieve different ideas. And that's what actors do for people, is actors teach people how to behave and how to develop their personalities. Because that's why all cultures throughout all of time have always had an element of performance. Whether you go to anywhere in the world, if you go to ancient China, they were doing like no theater. You go to ancient Africa, they were definitely dancing around. You go to like ancient like North American, Native Americans.
They smoked pot.
They smoked
tobacco.
Exactly.
They were dancing. But they were definitely shaking.
Yeah. They were definitely performing for each other, but they were performing as things that they saw as being virtuous, like great warriors, for example. And
so on that basis, that's your basis for saying actor is possibly the most important occupation there is.
Well, I think actors remind you why you're alive in a weird way. Like they kind of go, oh yeah, right, that's cool. This is why people flock and spend millions and people spend and flock by the billions to films and actors. Actors have such incredible power. Why is this?
And not even counting like celebrity, like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why?
Extravaganza.
And celebrity came out of acting, I think, more or less. Like rock stars and stuff. Like that they're whispering a certain truth that you are trying to achieve yourself. Like they're reminding you of why you're human. It's quite.
You don't think it's just like escapism, or is that the same thing?
Well, I mean,
would you argue that's escapism is reminding you like humanity is better than what your reality is?
I wouldn't call it escapism. I would call, what's the opposite of escape? I would say it's
stayism.
Stayism.
Stay home. COVID. It all comes back full circle, baby. Stay home.
But it's something about like you're going inward. You're actually going into yourself and reminding yourself of, oh yeah, this is something I was wanting to talk about because I was reading this book called Man's Search for Meaning. And it's this Viktor Frankl book, who's like another psychologist, and he's
adult.
He was an Auschwitz victim, and out of that, he talked about how he survived.
Oh, damn!
And how he survived was basically by giving himself meaning and basically giving himself a purpose to survive. So he thought about his wife often, and he thought about the book he wanted to write often. He projected into the future a sense of meaning. And I think that's like a big thing that actors kind of give people when they remind you, like, oh no, you can be a hero too. You know, and you see it in kids a lot. Like, kids often want to be superheroes, and Halloween is a big thing as well. You know, and people want, and you know, I'm sure you do it. I mean, every human does it. They act differently according to a group. You act different in front of your 100%. Parents. You act different in front of your friends.
Act differently depending on the fucking podcast guest I have. Exactly, I mean, that's very clear. Sometimes
and what's more important than the way you behave with people? And where do you get these ideas of how to behave? You know, you get them from acting. You know, I would argue anyway. So I think it's incredibly important and incredibly underrated. So when you think about those kind of things, it's like, how do I
act? Yo, I act, man. Fuck yeah, yo.
I hats off, man. God bless any actors out there, because it's truly a fucking important job. It really is, man. There's a reason why you got to treat them like infants, quote unquote, which is kind of a little insulting. I think.
Yeah. I took that as more like,
you got to be very respectful to them and go, look, this guy's doing something that I could only dream of doing. When a great actor delivers, it's like, you know, you can write something and you can try and direct something, and you're like, okay, fair enough. Like, I wrote about my dad dying, and now you show me what that means.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm struggling with this thing. A writer, let's say, is struggling with an idea. It's like, okay, I'm going to write how to fear death, or how to confront death. Now show me. And the actor goes, I'm going to dive within myself. It's one of the only professions to which you dive within and pull out. You're not trying to go outward and pull, you know what I mean? You're not trying to like learn something technical or learn something that's outside of yourself. You're trying to rediscover something of, like I say, what does it mean to be sad? What does it mean to be angry, happy, funny? What are all of these different ideas? It's very, very, very important, I think.
I can tell how much of a shit actor I am based on like, I'm just like, yeah, damn, we do that. Yeah, we do that.
But that's another thing too. But actors,
they're just the worst.
But like athletes though, I compare them a lot to athletes because they don't know this. They're tapping into something more, you know what I mean? They're doing something a little bit deeper. And so, like, it's similar to athletes, right? It's like, how did you defy physics? They're like, man, I'm just trying to put the ball in the hoop. You're like, I know that, but like, you know, Michael Jordan, you're just like, you're redefining a game. How are you doing this? And he's like, man, I'm just trying to put the ball in the hoop. It's like, okay, sick. You know what I mean? They're unaware. They're just moving through this idea, and they're just tapping into something. And actors, I think, are the same way. They're just like, here I am. And it's not an intellectual thing. It's not thought. It's definitely felt. You know what I mean?
That coming back to like,
that's what I'm talking about, baby.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's
respect
what's up.
Actors.
Yo, who act? Yo,
respect actors, man.
Shout out to actors.
And comedians as well. Comedians is a whole other thing, because comedians teach you and remind you that it's, you know what I mean, remind you what you're doing. It's like it's okay, funny, humor's so important.
Based on what I've seen on set, when directors come up and talk to actors, like you know, when they cut and they come and they give it's always a plus negative,
right,
or plus negative, right? You know, you hit your mark, great, love the eye line. If you could just blank, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You nailed the thing. If you could just, you know what I mean? It's almost as if like it's coming out of like a managerial, like director's managerial book, like positive. The actor needs the positive first, and then the negative. You know what I mean? Like
it depends on what you want. I've definitely read of and experienced certain directors who are trying to get their actor to be on edge, and they're just like, what the fuck's going on, dude? Like, we're late here. And they're trying to tap into them emotionally. And actors, God bless them, are so open, and this is why they can be taken advantage of so simply. And this is one of the sad parts about the film industry is how much actors do and how sometimes poorly treated they are. But they're so open in that they're like, okay, I'm just trying to find feelings. And if you're giving me the feeling of anxiety that I need to achieve the scene, it's like, I'm grateful for that and I want to accept it. But you got to both be aware of what you're doing in a sense.
Yeah. You can't just be firing at them. They're like, what the fuck? I'm trying to do the scene. You know what I mean? And they're like, use it. They're like, no, fuck you. I'm going back to my trailer. You know?
It's got to be a little defined. It's got to be a little bit kind of like wink, wink, misunderstood, but that's incredibly subtle. There's this great, and there's different ways you can do that, I guess. There's different ways you can kind of like get actors to trust you, because it's trust. Huge. Acting, trust is a big, big thing, I think. There's a great director, Kieslowski, he's a great Polish director. And what he used to do is he used to sit next to his camera. Like the lens would be like, 3 inches from his face, and he would just sit there and stare at the actor throughout the entire filming process, to the point where the actor would rely on this director, and anything else that happened, as long as the director was staring at him, he could do whatever. Like the actor felt safe and felt like somebody was paying attention to him.
Oh,
so eventually it felt like actors.
So you're not acting into an ether.
No, you're not acting in like, looking to see if the grip is laughing or looking, you know what I mean? You're not insecure. You're just like, okay, I have this pillar to connect to.
That's pretty. Does anybody do that anymore?
I mean, I've only read about Kieslowski doing that. I know Kubrick used to just say nothing to his actors. He would just go, another take, and they'd be like, why are we doing this? He's like, just we want to get it right. Just keep going. And he used to talk about, actually, there's a great story that he told that's relevant to that, where he started off as a photographer, and he was shooting an assignment at a baseball game once.
An assignment like school?
Just for a newspaper.
Okay.
He was shooting like he was a photojournalist.
Yeah.
And he was photographing a baseball game, and he saw these kids, and he was trying to photograph these kids, but they kept making faces, like he was trying to get an authentic documentation of like the audience.
Yeah.
But the kids kept playing to the camera.
Yeah.
So he just let them play, and he shot through a whole roll until the kids got bored of it.
And then went into Candid.
And then he went into Candid. And he's similar to actors. It's like, I want you to stop caring. I want you to get so like, fuck, I don't give a shit about this camera, this boom. I just want this to be, it's like, okay. And then you just do it. And it's like, you're not performing. You're actually just being.
Oh, like anytime, like again, with my minimal, and I can't stress this enough, experience.
It's like, I've been on one set. No, you showed me a fucking great like $1 million commercial you were just in. Or like, how long ago was that?
Yeah, but there's no
That
lines
was
on
huge,
that.
bro.
There's no
Sorry,
lines.
Bob.
That Nissan commercial.
Dude, that was huge. But
there's no lines. But I'm talking about when there's actually lines.
Oh, when there's actually dialogue.
Yeah, when there's actually when there's dialogue. Yeah.
Dialogue, boss.
Fucking
Okay?
dick, all right? I'm the actor, right? Most important job in the world. Fuck cardiologist. Fuck neurologist. Fuck fucking rocket scientist.
No, they're very, very, very important. Don't get me wrong. But
fuck them.
But how they deal with their stresses, I'm sure, is they watch actors.
Again, in my minimal experience, what I've seen is like, coming from a very amateur actor, it's like let's say you get your lines kind of right from the beginning, and then third, fourth, fifth take, you got your lines pounded.
Yeah.
And your lines are good. They're coming second nature, right? I find in that fifth, sixth take, I'm like, okay, we're good. We got it, And then the DP or the director or whoever's handling the scene, they'll just be like, go again and go again. And it's like, I'm like, we got it. But then it's like, if you go 5, 6, 7 more times, there comes a point where the lines, you're not thinking about the lines anymore, and you really do achieve like way better scenes. Like my instinct was to stop at that 6th one, but that 14th one, you really get to something that really feels so authentic. You're not thinking about the lines, and who knows if you do it 25. I'm sure there's a point of diminishing returns, like 30 plus. You're like burning out or whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's arguments to it, but the perfect take or the take that works is way past when my instinct says I got it. That's what I've learned. It's like when I feel like I got it, there's way more to be had.
Well, and Kubrick was often asked, why are you doing so many takes? And he responded like, I put so much time and effort into this film. Why would I rush through the most important part? Like, this is the most important. We're shooting the take.
Yeah.
Why are we trying to get it done so quickly? Like, let's see what happens. It's like, okay, we've been diminishing returns because there's one famous scene in The Shining up the stairs where they shot for like 4 days straight. That one same scene, just fucking grinding it. And I think it's because he was curious. He's like, well, what happens?
You could tell. They had the stairs memorized. The placement of the steps were memorized.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, fuck me. And it's like, there's this curiosity. It's like, don't you want to see what happens? You don't know what happens. You used to, like, Peter Sellers would do like 49 takes of nothing, and then the 50th could never be repeated. Like, it's just this brilliant, flawless flow.
What do you mean by nothing?
Like, he would just kind of like, it would be awkward or strange. This is Kubrick's words about directing Peter Sellers.
Who's Peter Sellers? Is that an actor?
Peter Sellers, he's like an old British comedian. Yeah. He's like a really famous old comedian.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Like 60s, 50s?
Yeah, 50s, 60s,
okay.
Probably even 40s maybe.
I don't know.
Nah, he did movies up until the 80s until he died. But big comedic actor. Did you ever see Dr. Strangelove?
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove.
I can't say that I have, no.
Okay, it's an old Kubrick movie. You
heard of Dr. Strange and Dr. Love.
Oh, yeah?
But not the two.
Not the two. Dr. Love. I am Dr.
Dr. Urabaru. There's for sure a Japanese version. Dr. Urabaru.
That's like an old movie from the 50s. It's like, 60s. It's a comedy. It's one of Kubrick's like best comedies. Great black satire. Actually, yeah, you guys should watch that movie. I was talking to your girlfriend there about what movies to watch, and Dr. Strangelove would be a really good one. Great.
Real old?
62 or 63. It's like a satire about the Cold War.
Okay.
Great movie. Great movie. Peter Sellers plays like 3 characters. But
what you're saying is that 49 takes of like
he would just like he would kind of be awkward, or he would kind of like try, or he would kind of like be like I said, it's ultimately it's subjective and an opinion of his. Like it's just he was on set and he felt this, and every time he just would be like, okay, that feels good. It's similar to like if you're listening to a chord, it's like it's out of tune. We're in tune. Why exactly does a chord sound better than not? Like why do?
Because there's resonance. Because
there's resonance.
There's the harmonics where it feels right, and the same thing
100%.
for there's visual harmonics.
Exactly,
guess, right?
100%. Yeah. And
where
so,
it's like that worked.
But then there's emotional harmonics as well. One might argue that like if you just that felt good because this is kind of again in tune with the vision. Like you're always keeping that feeling that you're trying to achieve in mind. You go, okay, that links with this part of me, and so okay, now we're good, and you just keep moving and with directors, right, is they got to be amateurs. They got to be a little bit of a pain in the ass to everybody. You got to be kind of like, okay, you could do it a little bit differently.
I heard about Michael Bay is apparently the worst on set. I heard the who was it? TJ Miller was talking about working with Michael Bay is so bad, so shit on set, and like he's like a tyrant on set.
That makes sense.
And one day, TJ Miller over like dinner. Asked him like, why are you the way you are on set? And he goes, I give the whole crew one person to hate, one person to be shitting on.
Ooh.
So anytime on set, he said anytime on set, like between takes or whatever, the grips are like, Jesus, he's on today or something like that. Like he is we'll say the metal rod that's just kind of like taking the whole lightning bolt or whatever you want to call it, right?
The pillar of anxiety.
He's taking it all, right? So like there's unity in this weird way. So he works with the same crew. They always come back because they always make some crazy banger movie. You know what I mean? That's great in theaters.
Sure.
So they always come back. It's almost like the way he put it. It was like it's almost like women giving birth. It's terrible. The giving birth is terrible. But when you see the child, when you see the movie, they forget. So they have that. So the whole crew comes back and works with Michael Bay over and over, despite him being the worst, apparently.
Yeah, it depends because you can be kind of like there's some directors who have taken things way too far.
Like who?
Well, I mean, there's that famous Bertolucci who directed last.
That sounds like a fucking knockoff
Bernardo
brand.
Bertolucci. Oh, no, is it Bertolucci? No, who the fuck was it? Was it Bertolucci? Bertolucci. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. Not Benini. Bertolucci.
Damn, Benini sounds like a proper brand.
I think that's a comedian. I think that's a comedian.
Yo, is that Benini? Fuck yeah, nigga. Shit.
Bertolucci. He. I mean, oh yeah. There's whoever directed Last Tango in Paris, because there's a terrible scene where he essentially like it's about these two people who basically have sex for a weekend.
Okay.
And one of the scenes is that one of the guys has anal sex with her and uses butter as a lubricant.
Okay.
And they just surprise the actor with that scene on the day, and just to get this authenticity, quote unquote. And that's like that to me is kind of like, there's a certain line to which you can be a dick, and it's okay. Like, what I mean? It just kind of motivates. Like, I hang out with a lot of French people. My mother's from Quebec. And, like, the French people are, and, like, French as well, like, they're very kind of, like, direct.
Okay.
But they're not, like, necessarily, like, offensive. You could be a dick without being offensive. You know what I mean? You can kind of just, like, get people to be like, no, this is...
Like straight to the
point. Like, buck up. Like, being a parent or something. Let's do this. Like a coach to an athlete.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? But there is a certain line to which...
You're being a dick past that.
Well, you need to watch yourself. I mean, I've been on set with some directors who've like grabbed me and stuff, and like people who like.
And you've been DPing on like director photography.
Like shooting like thing, and like someone like grab you, and you're like, dude, you can't like that's crossing a line, man.
Yeah.
You can be like, no, that sucked. What's going on? It's like, okay, that's fair. You can give me your opinion all day.
Like, sorry, the passion of the vision. You're like, no, fuck off, don't touch me.
Exactly right. And you're like, what scares me is that you're trying to do something humane, but yet you're forgetting your humanity. It's like you need to keep them both in check, I think. But then again, there's some people that argue against that because some directors are like, no, I'm trying to achieve something better and greater, and I'm really trying to, if you want to take that whole Nietzsche idea of like you got to be a jerk to do anything successful. You know what I mean? You really got to tap into that dark side of yourself to achieve something light. And so, like, some directors are fucking
Directors are like renegades, you know?
Dude, and they come out of nowhere. Like, some directors I met, they're like, oh, yeah, I was a waiter last year. It's like shooting with a DP who's been a DP for like 30 years. Like, they're just freak artists. This is just with film, per se. The commercial and television world are a little bit different because they're, like, much more structured and much more hierarchical. And they're more script and actor-based.
Yeah.
But when it comes to feature films, like, like that, again, that auteur idea, that singular vision idea, Yeah, they're fucking freaks. They come out of nowhere.
If you're
God
good
bless
enough
them.
in these if you can sell, if you can convey your artistry and your passion enough in these meetings,
Boom.
you'll get the job.
100%. Yeah, Safdie brothers talk about that too. It's like the director's job is just conveying enthusiasm. Again, it's like authentically. Because a lot of people can tell if you're bullshitting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If they're just like, no, this is going to be cool. It's like, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
it's going to be hot.
Yeah, but
you
like,
can't just keep saying that. Yes, you're wearing a piano key necktie, but it's not enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just got to like,
I can take the tie off. I mean,
but tilt the bottle to the camera, please.
by the way, that was my whole scene in The Boys with Giancarlo. I was bringing the guy a Fresca.
Oh, shit.
That whole scene, I was bringing him a Fresca, and I had to make sure that I put it down because it was a product placement.
Yeah.
It's funny how product placements work. They don't even have to be positive about the product.
No.
Isn't that interesting?
Just to mention it.
Isn't that interesting? It was a product placement for Fresca, and I already talked about this on the podcast, but I did The Boys Season 2, Amazon. It's coming out in a couple months, but Giancarlo, the guy, Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, that dude is like in everything, that like South American looking dude. I'm bringing him a Fresca, and I'm like the boss's assistant, and he's like the boss's guest. So I come up to the boss and I bring the Fresca, and the boss asks Giancarlo, he goes, Fresca? And he goes, oh no, terrible stuff. And it's still a product placement. I'm like, this is interesting, huh?
The Fresca people in
Just
the back are like-
mentioning it, yeah.
Just shrugging, whatever.
Oh, fuck. Is that you? Oh, that's me. Is that Conrad? No. It's Conrad calling me.
Oh, is that Conrad calling?
Yeah, actually, let's put him on. Let's see.
Let's see. Yo.
Oh, fuck. I hung it up accidentally.
Oh, well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, what he's saying, fam?
Yo, what up, G?
He says some crazy outlandish shit. Let's, we've done an hour. I want to end on who do you think is who are the emerging directors besides yourself? You know, who should people look out for?
In the world or
in the world?
or in Toronto?
Yeah, no, not necessarily Toronto. Like, in the world, because I know you're deep into like the film industry of a bunch of countries.
Oh well, because this is a big thing. Is like I have a big. I just want to show people good films, but in the contemporary sense, meaning people who are still
don't make that face again, please.
People who are still. I'm going to make it even more. The people are
terrible faces making it. No.
The people who are still making films and are alive today, I would say like number one in my opinion. There's this guy from Turkey called Nuri Bilge Ceylan. Nuri and
that's half the alphabet there. If you missed
exactly
it.
Yeah. Nuri Bilge Ceylan. It's NuriBilgeCeylan. Nuri Bilge Ceylan. Tremendous filmmaker. This guy goes hard, bro. He is sick as fuck. Tells you really about what it's like to be human, I think. There's that guy. There's another guy. Okay, this is going to be even worse. But there's a guy from Thailand. I'm not going to spell this, but his name is Apichatpong Virasthakel.
The fuck?
Okay,
that sounds like a fucking
ass shit, dude.
That sounds like a quantum theory.
Oh, I know,
what I mean?
yeah.
Or like, dude, that sounds like a Nobel Prize laureate. You know what I mean? Like they all have names like that.
He's an incredible filmmaker from Thailand.
Does he make like Ong Bak and shit like that?
What's that? No. Does he make like martial arts films?
Yeah. Do all his movies include kneeing and elbowing?
No.
And elbowing and kneeing from high heights.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is.
And elephants.
And about climbing a tree.
Yes.
I've
seen his work.
No, he's like one of the great filmmakers that really approaches ghosts in a very interesting way. He has a film called Uncle Boone Me, Who Can Recall His Past Lives. You feel me? And it's
the feel me is not part of the title.
It's
clearly sarcasm in reality, but I'm like audio wise that may not translate.
Yeah.
The name of the movie one more time?
Uncle Boone Me, Who Can Recall His Past Lives.
Yeah. Now in Thailand, they're still on that. We'll fucking name a movie 8 words. You know, it takes a couple decades of movie industry before we're like, let's bring it down to 4 max.
Yeah. There's another guy I'm just kind of listening to people who like are around in the 2000s. There's a filmmaker that I recently got into that I really fell in love with. This guy named Edward Yang, who's from Taiwan. And he died, but he's
oh shit.
Yeah, but he's
well, you obviously didn't hear my original question.
Incredible. So who's also kicking around? One of my favorite American filmmakers is this guy named Bennett Miller, who directed like Foxcatcher and Moneyball and Capote. I think he's a really special dude. Paul Thomas Anderson, obviously, people got to check him out if they don't know who he is.
He's very established though.
He's very established. And he's dope as shit. Who else has some great like contemporary film? There's this guy. Oh shit, what's his name? I was gonna say Michel Gondry, but it's. I forgot his name. Mexican filmmaker.
What about female directors, huh?
Oh, he made a film called The Chronic. film called Chronic, which is really good. As far as female directors, oh my goodness. Contemporary
You're
female
like, there
directors.
aren't any. And then we high five, and it's like, cool.
No, exactly. Sexism.
Yeah, right? Like,
Actually, there's
our
this
brains are big.
There's an incredible short filmmaker actually named A.V. Rockwell from America. She hasn't made a feature length film yet, but she has like this great Subway series, which is kind of like some of them are documentaries, some of them are fictional films. It's all on YouTube. A.V. Rockwell. She made this incredible, probably my favorite short of last year. This short called Feathers. Incredible movie. Who else has something good like that? That's just a good question about like female filmmakers. 'Cause there's tons kicking around, that's for sure.
well, what? Just I don't hear a lot of names of female directors. They're not directing.
Dude, I mean, in history,
ladies, where you at? You know?
in my opinion, some of the most rebellious filmmakers of all time have been women.
Oh shit!
Oh yeah, there's this great filmmaker.
Drop some names, baby.
Yo, we're talking Chantal Ackerman.
Oh shit!
Okay?
She sounds black and Jewish.
No, she's French and white.
Chantal Ackerman.
Avery Rockwell's black. Avery Rockwell's black. She's a black filmmaker, and she's like a black female filmmaker, so she's strong.
The BFF,
baby. But Chantal Ackerman's like one of the craziest filmmakers of all time, I think. She's just like, she's very, very unique. There's this girl named Maya Deren, who is this old from the 60s and stuff. She's a...
Man, imagine being a female director in the 60s. That must have been tough.
She didn't give a fuck, dude. She was out to lunch.
She'd be like, all right, give me more anger.
Yeah.
Sally wants more anger, huh?
Well, if I'll wrap it up on one last like intellectual thought about the theory of filmmaking. Okay.
Yeah, don't you can't preface something by saying, "Here's an intellectual thought for you."
What is it? It's
some food for thought. I'll leave you with this in your most NPR voice possible.
That's exactly right.
I'm gonna leave you with little tidbits. You're listening to NPR.
That's right.
Today we got in the studio. We got Mark Corless, an upcoming.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. But anyways, but Chantal Ackerman, just on your point about like, what it takes to be a woman making something, doing anything really like a social status, they're always so wild because I think it's such a hard way to.
They gotta be. That's why
they gotta be out there, man.
That's why police women are the fucking worst. They're the most bitches. You never get a warning from them. You always get a ticket because they're in the boys' club. They're like, yeah, I got a ponytail, but I'll fucking ticket everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know,
these pants are tight on my ass, but fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got a nice ass, but shit, you're not gonna get away with it.
Yeah, it's true. Police
women if you see a woman coming up to your car,
it's all over.
Yeah. But, unless you're a chick and you can cry, in which case they're probably like, you're the reason women are seen as weak, and she'll give you a ticket. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna win.
Yeah, it's true. I just word out women hate. But Chantal Ackerman, she was interesting because she talked about the hierarchy of images. This is kind of like off track, but she talked about like, she would ask, why is a gunshot more important than cooking? And so she was like really argue about how cinema has too strong of a hierarchy of images, that people want certain images more than others. And she was really curious as to why that is. Why isn't making a bed cinematic? Why isn't, serving dinner a cinematic idea? Why isn't showering cinematic? Why is can you watch a car chase? Why is that so cinematic? I mean, for obvious reasons, it's thrilling and all these different ideas. But she wanted to explore what potentially cinema has the power to exaggerate and give weight to kind of everyday activities. NPR with Mark Corless.
Yeah, right? Fuck yeah. You wrapped that up on your own. I appreciate it, bro. Fuck. Well, tell the people where to find you. I know you got on Instagram. You got any works coming up? We did Micers together. I've talked about Micers.
Oh, yeah. Shot and directed Micers.
Shot and directed Micers with myself and Max Sheldrick.
We didn't even talk about that. Damn.
Well, you know what? I just kind of want to let it speak for itself.
Yeah.
Once it does, there's a lot of talk about writing it. That's pretty much a web series about the life of stand-up comedy open micers. It's done. It looks great. We're just trying to figure out the best. Because I was of the mindset that, you make something good and you just drop it on YouTube. But you and Conrad have enlightened me in the sense that that's really not the path to go, because with festival submissions and stuff, a lot of them have the requirement that it premieres. So if you submit it to festivals, you can't drop it on YouTube. It has to premiere at that festival, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of these little things, I don't know when the people will see it, but absolutely you will see it. It looks fucking terrific. Besides Micers, you got anything you are working on? Actually, the Blue Golf, that's out.
Oh, yeah, the Blue Golf.
Check out Video Canal on Instagram at Video Canal.
Yep. That was like a fun little thing that we did, yeah.
That was a fun little improvised short that we did with a super dope camera that Conrad had access to. Shot and directed by Mark again. Check that out, the Blue Golf. It's like 5-6 minutes.
Yeah,
just me and Conrad in it. It's pretty dope. It came out pretty nice.
We watched Gone for 60 Seconds that stole.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially, this is what you'll see on @videocanal on Instagram. That's the only place it's on right now. And for you, your Instagram is Calaboo, right? So what is it?
Oh yeah, Kalakaboo. Kalakaboo.
I plugged that anyways in the description.
Word up. Where's that come from?
Stop saying that.
What? Word up? That's a dope saying.
Yeah, anybody can say that.
Anybody say, oh, why?
From my end, thank you for listening. As always, if you are on the Apple shit, press that follow or like or whatever it is, but hit 5 stars, leave a little comment. That's how, the algorithm favors us, how people find out about it. Tell people about the podcast, Immigrant Section. It's the only way it grows. I'm going to keep having immigrants on and just white guys. You know what I mean? I'm just going to keep doing what I do. It's going to keep being good. Please tell your friends. If you're on Spotify, click follow. All that shit. As always, appreciate y'all so much for listening. Stay tuned until next week. Peace.